There's something inside you that's been screaming for help, but you've silenced it for so long, you don't even hear it anymore. You're constantly rushing, putting out fires, just trying to survive, while your mind quietly falls apart. And the worst part? You think that's normal, but it's not. Today, you're going to discover how to change that reality, because yes, you can get your calm back, and the path begins by mastering the one thing that's always been under your control, your mind. Stress doesn't go away, it transforms. And the Stoics knew this better than anyone. They also lived surrounded by chaos, uncertainty, pressure, hard decisions. But they learned something that could change your life. Calm isn't found by running away, it's built from within. In this video, I'm going to share 10 Stoic habits that have lasted for centuries because they work. Habits you can start using today to take back control of your mind, quiet that storm of thoughts, and live with more presence, more strength, and more peace. Ready to stop surviving and start living. Before we dive in, let me tell you Lucia's story, because sometimes the best way to understand how to calm the mind is by seeing what happens when you ignore everything it's desperately trying to tell you. Lucia had a skill that seemed admirable. She could handle everything, always available, always on the run, always fixing things. To everyone else, she was strong, efficient, tireless. But no one knew that, inside, she was hanging by a thread. The first warning signs were subtle. Sleepless nights, constant exhaustion, unexplainable mood swings. Then came the memory lapses, the racing heart, that heavy feeling that the world was just too much. But she kept going, because she felt like she didn't have the right to stop. Until one day, her body forced her to. She was at the supermarket, rushing around as usual. She only needed a few things before heading back to work. But when she got to the cereal aisle, her mind went blank. She couldn't remember what she needed to buy or why she was even there. Her heart was pounding. Her legs wouldn't move. She started to sweat, to shake. She couldn't breathe. And the worst part wasn't the anxiety attack. The worst part was what she thought in that moment. I can't fall apart right now. I don't have time for this. That sentence hurt the most when she remembered it later, because that's when she realized how disconnected she had become. She'd silenced her mind for so long that when it finally screamed for real, she still didn't want to hear it. That night, for the first time in a long time, she let herself fall apart. She cried without holding back. She locked herself in the bathroom with the mirror fogged up and looked at herself as if she were seeing a stranger. And something inside her shifted. It wasn't a pretty change. It was like opening a box full of things she had spent years pushing to the back. The next day, a friend gave her a book she never would have picked up on her own. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. At first she laughed. A Roman emperor is supposed to understand what I'm going through, she thought. But she read it, and among the highlighted pages she found a quote that hit her deeply. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That's when she realized something no one had ever told her before. The problem wasn't just everything she had on her plate. It was the story she was telling herself about it. Lucia wasn't broken. She was just exhausted from pretending she didn't feel anything. And what she needed wasn't just therapy or motivational advice. She needed to reconnect with herself from the inside out. She started slowly. 1 habit a week, writing before bed, taking a breath before replying, turning off her phone at lunch, being grateful for the smallest things, saying no without justifying herself. And while her life didn't become perfect, her mind finally started finding moments of calm. What used to overwhelm her didn't have the same power anymore. What she used to avoid, she started facing. And for the first time in years, she could be alone, without feeling lost. Lucia is still strong, but not because she can take on everything. Now it's because she knows when to stop, when to let go, and when to truly listen to herself. Now tell me, how many times have you felt like her? How many times have you pushed through even when something inside you was crying out for help? If that voice is still alive in you, don't keep ignoring it. Listen to it, because maybe this is your first step toward getting your peace back. Now, your moment has come, because what you're about to hear could completely change the way you live, think, and take care of yourself. Let's get into the first habit that can bring back the calm your mind has been craving for so long. Before we continue, if this content is bringing you value, consider subscribing and becoming an exclusive member to access unique perks. And tell us in the comments, what part of yourself have you been neglecting? And is it finally time to listen to it again? Or just write, "I'm a Stoic. Starting today, I begin rebuilding myself from within, in silence, with intention." 1. The 90-10 rule. Picture this. You're late, really late. You didn't even have time to take a proper shower. Your stomach's half empty and you're scrambling to throw something together before heading out. You open the fridge, grab an egg, and without meaning to, it slips, smashes on the floor, makes a mess. You take a deep breath, grab some paper towels to clean it up, and while you're wiping it, you knock over your mug of tea, the one thing you'd made to have a moment of calm. It falls, shatters, and that's when you lose it. You yell, swear, slam your hand on the counter. And the worst part isn't the broken mug, it's how overwhelmed, ridiculous, and out of control you feel. You mutter to yourself, "Am I really losing it over this?" And yes, you're losing it. But not because of this. You're losing it because of everything you've been holding in, everything you haven't said, everything you've been carrying, everything you've ignored. This isn't a bad day. This is a system on the edge of collapse. Now imagine the same situation, but with Epictetus in your place, there in your kitchen, wearing a wrinkled tunic, half asleep, and staring at the egg on the floor. Do you think he'd explode? Throw the mug against the wall or pound the counter? Of course not. He'd stay silent, breathing, watching the chaos like someone watching a storm, knowing it'll pass too. Because he didn't react to what happened. He reacted to what he thought about what happened, and he explained it better than anyone. We are not disturbed by events, but by the views we take of them. The problem isn't that the egg dropped. The problem is what your mind starts telling you. This always happens to me. This is what I get for rushing. Everything goes wrong. That, my friend, is exactly where the famous 90-10 rule comes in. You may have heard of it. Only 10% of stress comes from what happens. 90% comes from how you react. It's a rule made popular by Stephen Covey, but isn't it exactly what Epictetus was saying too? I know. It's hard to accept, but it's also freeing, because if you're the one creating it, then you can also shut it off. Stephen Bartlett, on his podcast, The Diary of a CEO, has talked about this many times with neuroscientists. When your brain gets triggered, the amygdala takes over. That emotional part doesn't wait for your permission. It just reacts. It's like having a screaming child inside your head. But you also have your rational brain, the part that thinks, evaluates, slows you down. It just shows up a little later, and for it to show up, you have to give it time. So here are 3 practical tools you can start using today, because this habit isn't something you understand once. It's something you practice again and again until it becomes your new way of living. First, name what you feel. Instead of exploding, breathe and say quietly, "I'm frustrated. I'm anxious. I'm exhausted." Naming the emotion breaks the loop. It stops being something that controls you and becomes something you can observe. Second, take a 90-second pause before responding. Yep, 90 seconds. That's how long it takes your brain to regulate an intense emotion. Those seconds can stop you from saying something you'll regret, or from breaking a mug you actually liked. Third, ask yourself this honestly. Will this still matter to me tomorrow? And if the answer is no, then why give it your energy now? Not everything deserves a reaction. Not everything needs an immediate response. Sometimes letting go is the greatest form of control. When you stop reacting the way you always have and start responding the way you actually want to. Everything shifts. It's not magic, it's practice. And every time you choose not to yell, not to rush, not to spiral into drama, you're training your peace. Because calm doesn't show up on its own. You build it, day by day, choice by choice. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can take back your inner space. And right there, that's where real freedom begins. So tell me, are you going to keep letting that 10% run the show? Or are you ready to take back the other 90 and finally start building your calm? 2. Empty your head. You wake up exhausted, but not because you slept badly. It's your mind. You haven't even set foot on the floor yet, and there's already a storm inside your head that won't let you breathe. You're thinking about that email you didn't reply to, what you said and shouldn't have, what you didn't say and now regret. You remember what you have to do today, what you didn't do yesterday, that weird conversation from 3 days ago, and the thing your mom said that you still don't know how to take. You're jumping from one thought to another like you're surfing through your brain with 100 tabs open. One for worries, one for to-do lists, one for guilt, one for doubts, and none of them ever close. Everything is loading at once, Ray, and you, like an old computer, are about to crash. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. How many tabs do you have open in your brain right now? Because me, when I don't write down what I'm thinking, I've got more open than Chrome after a full afternoon of procrastinating. One tab for what I said in that meeting, another for the message I still haven't answered, another with a fake conversation I'll probably never have, and they're all there buzzing around like mosquitoes in a closed room. All that noise turns into anxiety, into exhaustion, into stress. The mind isn't designed to store everything. It's not a hard drive. It's not a storage room. It's a living space that needs order, air, and most of all, clearing out. But if you don't let go of what's bothering you, what's making you uneasy, what you don't even know how to name, it just stays there, spinning, draining you, emptying your head. So how do you do that? It's easier than it sounds, right? That's the habit. Think it's silly? Let me tell you why it's not. There's a psychologist named Emma McAdam, creator of the channel Therapy in a Nutshell, who explains it perfectly. Writing down your thoughts is like dragging your inner critic into the sunlight and letting it melt. Because when thoughts stay trapped in your head, they grow, they twist, they take over. But when you get them out, they lose power. And no, writing isn't cheesy, or boring, or just for people with too much free time. It's a powerful tool to free up mental space. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, knew that. That's why he wrote every day. And he wrote for himself. Not to publish, not to leave a legacy, to understand himself, to calm down, to not get lost in the storm of the outside world. In meditations, you can read things like, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, today I will meet with the meddling, the ungrateful, the arrogant. And he wasn't being dramatic. He wrote it because putting words to what he expected to face helped him stay grounded. As if writing it down meant he'd already gone through the battle before it even began. Today, lots of people have discovered this habit too. Ali Abdaal, YouTuber and former doctor, talks about how journaling saved him from burnout. His method is simple: 3 lines each night. One problem, one possible solution, and one thing he learned. That's it. And it works. Because you don't need to write a 1,000-page diary. You just need to create a safe space where you can unload what's weighing you down. My friend, if you want to calm your mind, you need to let out what's eating at you before it gets stuck. So here's what I suggest. Try the brain to paper with no filter method. Grab a notebook, a scrap of paper, anything you've got, and write like you're the most dramatic character in a telenovela. Let it all out. I can't take it anymore. I'm up to my neck. I'm sick of it. No one's gonna read it, it's just for you, but you'll see. Once it's out, it starts to deflate. Write it all down, no filters, and relax. You don't need nice handwriting. It doesn't have to be pretty. You're not Neruda and you don't need to be. But you'll see how, little by little, it starts to free you. And if writing's not your thing, don't worry. There are other ways. Use voice notes. Seriously. Talk to yourself like you're telling your drama to a friend. Or if you're feeling bold, record yourself like you're making a video for your followers explaining how you feel. Don't post it, of course, but by expressing it, even if it's just for you, something starts to release. What matters most is turning this into your go-to habit. Don't just do it once and forget about it. A lot of the stress you carry doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from everything you don't say, don't organize, don't understand. And this habit, even if it seems small, creates space. It lets you breathe. It lets you let go. Your mind isn't a storage room for unfinished tasks, trapped emotions, and thoughts you don't know where to put. It's not a junk closet filled with stuff you never use, that bike you haven't ridden in years, the painting you never hung, the box of memories you don't even want to open. It's a temple, and like every temple, it needs to be cleaned daily, even just a little. Not so it's perfect, but so you can walk into it and finally feel peace. 3. Stop running from fear. They say that deep in the forest lived a deer that didn't know how to rest. He slept with one eye open, walked with tense legs, always alert, always ready to run. A leaf hit the ground, crack. He ran. A branch swayed in the wind. Shh. He ran. A pine cone dropped and hit a tree trunk, a thud. He ran. He ran even when there was no danger, even when no one was there, even when he was completely alone. His heart was always racing, his body exhausted, but his mind, that was the real problem. It kept creating threats that didn't exist, imagining invisible enemies. He ran out of instinct, not necessity. Days went by like that. The deer no longer ate in peace or slept deeply. The slightest sound woke him up, and he ran, always ran, until one day the danger was real. A wolf appeared, not a thought, an actual threat. The deer tried to run like always, but his legs didn't respond. His mind, so tired from being on high alert, shut down. His body, worn out from fleeing nonstop, froze, and the fear he'd spent his whole life avoiding finally caught up to him. That deer is us. Every time we avoid a difficult conversation, a change that scares us, a decision that makes us uncomfortable, every time we put off what we know we need to face today, every time we hide from fear, thinking that's how we protect ourselves. But my friend, fear doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It grows. It gets heavier, louder. Seneca put it in the most brutal way. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. And he was right. You see it? The deer didn't suffer because of real danger. He suffered because of all the things he imagined could happen. And the same thing happens to you when you avoid, when you delay, when you pretend that not naming it means it doesn't exist. Can you picture Seneca in your place today? Do you think he'd cancel a meeting just because the idea of it makes him anxious? Of course not. He'd go, face the moment, and then probably write a letter laughing at how ridiculous his fear had been. Because facing fear doesn't make it disappear. It just stops it from controlling you. And the best part? This isn't just philosophy. Science backs it up too. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford, has often talked about how voluntary exposure to small stressors, like cold showers, public speaking, or uncomfortable conversations, trains your brain not to panic. It teaches your mind that fear won't kill you, that you can go through it and still stand tall. And I'm telling you this from experience. I do this every day. Here's something personal. I'm afraid of lizards. Yep, those harmless little creatures most people barely notice. They freak me out. And since I live close to nature, there's always one wandering around the yard. At first, they stressed me out so much I didn't even want to step outside. I'd panic. I felt trapped. But little by little, I went out anyway. First for 5 minutes, then a bit longer. Sometimes I was tense, sometimes I ran back inside. But I didn't stop trying, and that tiny step, facing a lizard, as silly as it sounds, was the first of many, because it showed me that I could do it. That fear doesn't get to call the shots, that my mind can learn to stay calm even when something feels uncomfortable, and you can do the same. Picture this. You have to tell your partner you're going away for a work trip, right on their birthday. You've been putting it off. You're afraid they'll be upset or hurt. It's eating you alive. Each day it weighs heavier, until finally you say it, honestly. And not only do they understand, they offer to help you plan it. And there you are, after mentally torturing yourself for a whole week, over something that turned out to be nowhere near as bad as you thought. So, are you ready to stop running from fear? Try this. Use the daily mini-risk method. Make a list of things that scare you. Small things, everyday things, like calling someone you've been avoiding, saying no to something you don't want to do, posting that video you've had in your drafts for weeks. Pick just one each week, just one, do it, then cross it off. When you do, celebrate like you would with a brave little kid. Eat your favorite food, write it in big letters. Do something that tells your brain, you did it, and you're okay. Because it's not about becoming a hero. It's about teaching your mind that you're capable of way more than it thinks. You don't build courage by running. You build it in those moments when your voice shakes. But you speak when you're afraid, but you don't back down. And let me leave you with this. Don't ever forget it. If you don't train your mind in times of peace, it'll break when the storm hits. But if you do, if you take those uncomfortable steps each day, there will come a time when fear stops screaming so loudly. And in that moment, my friend, you'll have taken a huge step toward real calm. Now tell us in the comments, what are you going to stop running from this week? And how do you think facing it could help you calm your mind and reduce stress? We're here to support you. Every step matters. Every small act of courage is a gift to your future self. 4. Breathe like a Stoic. You're at work. It's Monday, not even 10 a.m., and they've already dumped a mess on you that isn't yours. A problem you didn't create, that isn't your responsibility. But somehow, like magic, now it's on your plate. You're sitting there, staring at the screen, wearing that I want to disappear face, feeling it all start to rise through your body, the tension in your jaw, that heat building in your chest, your mind racing out of control, and without even realizing it, you're breathing like a lion is chasing you, short, fast, shallow. And even if you don't notice it, that changes everything. Your body goes into alarm mode. Your brain thinks you're in danger. It starts pumping out cortisol, adrenaline, and your thoughts go into overdrive trying to figure out how to survive. But you're not in a war zone. You're in an office with a broken coffee machine, an uncomfortable chair, and someone clicking a pen non-stop next to you. But here's the worst part. Your body doesn't know the difference, because when you breathe like you're in danger, your body believes it. And if your body believes it, stress takes control. This is where your breath becomes your greatest ally. The Stoics knew that whoever controls their breathing controls their impulses. And if you can control your impulses, you can make clear decisions, even in the middle of chaos. Marcus Aurelius did it. He carried an empire on his shoulders with enemies inside and outside of Rome, and decisions that shaped the lives of thousands. But he didn't let pressure sweep him away. His calm didn't come from the outside. It came from within. And before acting, he would breathe. He breathed so he wouldn't give in to rage, fear, or reactivity. He breathed to choose. But don't worry. You don't need to fly off to Tibet or sit through endless mindfulness sessions. You just need to learn to use your breath like a tool, a direct switch between what you feel and what you decide. Here's how you can do it. Every time you feel stress creeping up your chest, like when you see 3 missed calls from work on your day off, when your kid breaks something and all you wanted was 5 minutes of peace, when your partner says, "We need to talk," right before bed, try this. Inhale through your nose as you count to 3. Hold your breath as you count to 4. Exhale gently through your mouth as you count to 5. This is the 3-4-5 method from Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, author of The Stress Solution. And it's not just pretty breathing, it's pure physiology. You're activating the emergency brake in your nervous system. You're telling your body, we're not in danger. It's safe to calm down. Do it twice, 3 times, and you'll feel something loosen inside. That feeling of being about to explode, it starts to deflate. And suddenly, you're back to yourself. And if it's not enough, if you feel like you still need more, then move your body. No, you don't have to go for a run or do yoga in the middle of the supermarket. Just do something simple. While you inhale, wiggle your big toe. Sounds silly, but it works. You're shifting your attention to something physical, tangible, real. You're telling your mind to return to the present, and that's the key. Breathing like this won't solve your life, but it can keep you from wrecking it in a moment of impulse. Because, my friend, the second you control your breath, you take back control, not of everything, but of the one thing that matters most, your reaction. Your breath is the remote control for your mind. If you don't know how to use it, everything changes on its own, without your say. But if you do learn to use it, you can turn down the volume on the chaos and tune into calm. And in a world this noisy, that's worth gold. 5. Visualize the worst-case scenario and take away its power. Has it ever happened to you that you thought everything was going to go horribly wrong, and in the end, it wasn't that bad? And other times, something did go wrong, but you knew exactly what to do because you'd already imagined it 100 times before. It's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes imagining disaster doesn't make you weaker. It makes you stronger. Picture this. It's the night before a job interview. Your resume is ready, your clothes are ironed. You've memorized all the common questions, but you can't sleep. You toss and turn, heart pounding, your mind stuck on a loop. What if I stutter? What if they ask me something I don't know? What if they look at me funny? What if I blank out? What if they don't like me? What if they reject me? You start imagining the worst-case scenario, and it only stresses you more. But right there, without realizing, you're on the edge of doing something powerful. You're just doing it wrong. Because the point isn't to picture the worst and get stuck in fear. It's to imagine it, so it loses its power. You know what that's called? The pre-mortem technique. Companies like Google and Intel use it. Before launching a project, they ask, what if this totally fails? What could go wrong? And they don't do it to freeze up, but to act with more clarity, more focus, more calm. It's no coincidence these companies are so effective. They train their minds not to fall apart when things don't go as planned. And this isn't a modern invention. The Stoics practiced it every day. Marcus Aurelius summed it up in one simple, powerful line. Prepare yourself for whatever fortune may bring. It wasn't pessimism, it was strategy. It was looking adversity in the eye before it arrived. Not to invite it, but to take away the element of surprise. And you can do the same. Think about how many times you've avoided doing something just because you were afraid it would go wrong. Not because you failed before, but because you imagined it so many times your body reacted like it already happened. But what if you flipped that fear around? What if you turned it into a dress rehearsal with an open ending? That way, your mind doesn't freeze up. It drops the panic and starts to prepare. If you're curious and want to start building this habit, here are 3 simple steps you can try today. First, write out the worst possible scenario for a situation that's stressing you out. Don't hold back. Write it like it's already happening. For example, I show up to the interview. They ask me something I don't know. I panic. I stumble over my words, and it all feels like a disaster. Second, right after, write how you'd handle it if that really did happen. What would you do? Breathe? Ask for a second to think? Crack a light joke to ease the tension? The point is to show your mind that even in that scenario, you still have options. Third, do a mental rehearsal, with emotions included. Don't just picture what would happen. Feel how it would affect you. Imagine the pressure in your chest, the tightness in your throat, and then feel how you slowly calm down, refocus, and keep going. It's invisible training, but incredibly effective. And finally, when it still feels like too much, share that fear out loud with someone, but do it with humor. Say it like a joke. I picture myself falling off the chair mid-interview and getting fired before they even hire me. Saying it out loud with that ironic twist takes the sting out of it. It removes the drama, and you get your air back. My friend, When you visualize disaster, you're not being negative. You're strengthening your mind. You're preparing for chaos so it doesn't knock you down. Because real control doesn't come from making sure nothing ever goes wrong. It comes from knowing that if it does, you'll still be okay. Believe me, this is a powerful habit to calm your mind. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but it helps you shut down the mental noise that shows up when you need peace the most. It's a real, practical, and powerful way to soothe your mind and reduce stress. So, why not give it a try? 6. Do it with your full attention. Living on autopilot is like driving down a foggy road. You're moving, but you can't see a thing. You know you're going forward because the car is running. But if someone asks what you saw along the way, you wouldn't remember. That's how your mind is. Always going somewhere, but never really present. Doing things without actually being in them. And the worst part? We've normalized it. We make coffee while answering texts, while listening to a podcast, while thinking about that awkward conversation from last Thursday. Your body's here, but your head took off a while ago. And of course, your mind notices. That's why you feel stressed all day long, your head buzzing with 1,000 thoughts every second. You're making lunch but thinking about the gift you still need to buy for your niece. You show up at the birthday party, but your brain's already worrying about dinner and packing a bag for tomorrow. Hey, slow down. Are you actually where you need to be? And yeah, I know, these sound like little things, but if we don't stop this pattern, it can turn into something bigger. Just recently, it happened to a friend of mine. She was at the park with her daughter answering work emails on her phone. She thought she had it all under control, that she could be in 2 places at once. Then she heard a loud thud. Her daughter had fallen off the swing. She was crying, totally shaken up. And my friend hadn't seen it. She didn't even know how it happened. Because her body was there, but her mind was miles away. And that hurts. Not just because of the scare. It hurts when, later, you realize you were there, but only physically. Your attention was so scattered that you weren't really present in the moment that needed you the most. The Stoics were absolute legends at this. Musonius Rufus, Epictetus' teacher, taught people to live with intention, even in the most ordinary tasks. He said, "There is no act too small if done with virtue. Washing dishes, walking down the street, talking to your child. Any of these can be a practice in presence. Or they can be mindless distractions that leave you with nothing. Did you know that doing something with full attention helps calm your mind?" Dr. Judd Brewer, psychiatrist and author of Unwinding Anxiety, has proven it. When you focus fully on just one task, your anxiety can drop by up to 40%. 40. Can you imagine cutting your stress almost in half? Just by being more present in what you're doing. It's not magic. It's neuroscience. That's why this habit can truly change your life, because when you do things with full attention, your mind aligns. It stops being split into pieces, and finally, it starts to calm down. So try this. Do one task like you're a Zen monk. Put on soft music and wash the dishes like your spiritual awakening depends on it. It sounds silly, but after 2 minutes, your mental state shifts. Or here's a challenge. For 30 minutes a day, don't allow yourself to multitask. Just one thing, anything, but do it with your full attention. Wash the car, reply to emails, or stare at the ceiling. The task doesn't matter. What matters is that your energy isn't scattered. You know what works for me? Turning off notifications during meals, conversations, and breaks. It seems like a small thing, but it completely changes the quality of those moments. When you eat without distractions, your body digests better. When you talk without glancing at your phone, you really connect. When you rest without external noise, your brain actually rests. My friend, your mind needs air. It needs focus. It needs to be in one place, not pulled in 20 different directions. Because if it's constantly stretched, it breaks. But when you start doing things with intention, with full attention, with presence, something clicks inside. And finally, you feel calm. Don't let life pass you by like a sped-up video. Don't look back someday like Bad Bunny says, thinking, "I should have taken more pictures." Because what he really meant was, I should have been more present. I should have felt more of what was right in front of me. I should have lived instead of jumping from one notification to the next. And you? How many meaningful moments are you missing because you're not fully there? Tell us below. Where in your life are you going to start giving your full attention? Don't regret it later. Live it now. And you'll already be training your mind to find peace where you never thought to look. In the simple things, the small moments, the stuff that's right in front of you. 7. Change the story you tell yourself. They're looking at you weird. They're definitely talking about you. Why didn't they reply to that message? Something's wrong. It's about you. That look on their face, for sure they're disappointed. Sounds familiar, right? Funny thing is, no one actually said those things to you. They didn't come out of anyone else's mouth. They came from you, from your own head. You, the silent narrator that spends all day telling you stories and often goes way overboard. Because let's be honest, my friend, if someone else talked to you the way you talk to yourself sometimes, you would have blocked them a long time ago. And that's the problem. It's not what happens to you. It's the story you tell yourself about what happens to you, what you interpret, what you repeat, what you start believing is truth. That's why this habit can be your mental lifesaver, because when you change that narrative, everything changes with it. Epictetus said it loud and clear centuries ago. It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. And yes, that came from a man who was a slave. He could have told himself a story like, I'm a victim, I have no control, my life is punishment. But he didn't. He told himself another story, one of inner strength, of wisdom. And thank goodness, because if he hadn't, we wouldn't be learning from him today. I recently heard an incredible podcast called The Success Formula. They interviewed a woman named Nada, who was kidnapped and held in the jungle for months. And instead of breaking down, instead of repeating the story, this destroyed me, you know what she said? This didn't break me, it built me. And no, of course it's not easy, but it is possible. That's the key. We can't control everything that happens to us, but we can work on the story we tell ourselves afterward. And this isn't just for big life events. It shows up in everyday stuff too. You argue with your partner and your mind writes a whole telenovela script. They don't love me anymore. This is going to end. Everything's wrong. When in reality, it was just a rough day, or a bad night, or maybe just hunger. Dr. Daniel Amen, a neuroscientist, talks about ANTS, automatic negative thoughts. The acronym spells ANTS, and he says these thoughts are like tiny mental bugs crawling all over your brain. That's why he talks about killing the mental ants before they become a full-blown infestation. Because it only takes one distorted thought to fill your head with stories that aren't real, and that slowly eat away at your peace. So what can you do in those moments? Here are 3 things that actually work. First, invent a ridiculous reframe, something totally absurd. For example, they didn't reply because they're stuck in an elevator with no signal. Poor thing's probably waving a tinfoil antenna trying to get out. Sounds silly, but laughing at the story your mind's trying to sell you strips it of its power. Second, rewrite the thought like you're talking to your best friend. What would you say if they told you, I'm a failure, everything I do is wrong? You'd hug them, offer another perspective, do the same for yourself. You deserve that same compassion. Third, talk out loud to yourself using a different voice. Literally, change your tone, exaggerate, mimic yourself. Hi, it's me again, spiraling because I didn't get a like. Say it in a parody voice. You'll see, when your brain hears itself from the outside, it chills out. Because this habit, as silly as it may seem, is a powerful tool to calm your mind. When you stop telling yourself catastrophic stories and start narrating with more truth, more balance, and even a little humor, the stress loses its grip. You stop living in a horror film written by your ego and start seeing your life with a lot more clarity. My friend, you already know it. The story you tell yourself isn't innocent. It can save you, or it can destroy you. So tell it wisely. 8. Your habits are in charge. You say you want peace. but you wake up to an alarm that sounds like a full-blown emergency. You grab your phone before you've even opened your eyes all the way. 40 notifications, bad news, work messages, and just like that, your very first thought of the day is stress. You say you want clarity, but you eat breakfast in a rush, answering emails with one hand and holding your coffee with the other. You jump from app to app, thought to thought, task to task. Your body may be sitting still, but your mind is running a marathon. Then at night, you're drained, anxious, out of energy, and you don't know why. But I'll tell you, my friend, your habits are dragging you, and if you don't choose them, they'll choose for you. Your habits are like invisible threads. One on its own doesn't seem strong, but when enough of them come together, they pull you, they push you, they take you down paths you didn't even realize you were on. And the weird thing is, they don't scream, they don't force themselves on you. They just repeat, day after day, until you become them. So it's time to change those habits. And don't worry, it's not as hard as it sounds. All you need are anchor habits. Small routines that, without you even realizing it, calm your nervous system, give you stability, reconnect you with a sense of control, of direction. Marcus Aurelius knew this. That's why he wrote every morning. He prepared himself for what he was going to face. He connected with his purpose, with his center. There's a quote of his that sums it all up. Happiness depends on yourself. And you, my friend, how do you start your day? What ritual are you repeating that's already deciding how you're going to feel for the rest of it? Because you're not what you say you'll do. You're what you do every single day. That's why today I'm inviting you to do something different. Create your daily calm ritual. It doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe it's making your coffee in silence, taking a walk without looking at your phone, breathing deeply by the window, something that tells your brain, I'm the one in charge here. Also, change one micro habit per week, just one. Instead of checking your phone the moment you wake up, take 3 slow breaths and write down one phrase you want to live by that day. For example, today I choose not to rush, or my peace is not negotiable. And if you slip one day, it's okay. It's not about doing it perfectly, it's about choosing again. Because every day you repeat a habit, you're telling your mind how you want to live. Remember this, your habits either build you or wear you down. They either guide you toward calm or pull you into chaos. And if you're serious about calming your mind, this is the best place to start. Don't think of it as a goal. Think of it as a direction, because every small gesture done with intention becomes one more rope that holds you steady. 9. Remind yourself who you are every day. Picture this. A warrior wakes before the sun, opens his eyes, takes a deep breath, and before putting on his armor, he says a phrase. Not to hype himself up, but to remind himself why he fights, what he stands for, who he's vowed never to betray. Then, and only then, he dresses, grabs his sword, and steps out into the world. It's not a movie. It's exactly what you need to do each morning. Your armor isn't made of metal. It's your attitude, your word, your principles. And sure, maybe you're not walking into a literal battlefield, but tell me it doesn't feel like a war inside. Every time you doubt yourself, every time you forget why you do what you do, every time the noise around you makes you question everything. That's why this habit can change everything, reminding yourself who you are. Because in the middle of chaos, stress, and all the voices trying to define you, you need one voice that comes from within to bring you back to center. And no, I'm not talking about repeating empty phrases like, I'm a winner, or today is going to be amazing. I'm talking about connecting with what actually represents you, what you chose to believe in, what you're not willing to abandon, even when everything feels shaky. The Stoics knew this well. They were warriors of their time, and their shield wasn't metal, it was their mind. That's why every morning, they reminded themselves of who they were. Epictetus, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, they didn't wait to feel good to act with virtue. They chose it ahead of time. They affirmed it with clarity. They wrote it down. They repeated it. because they knew that if they didn't, the outside noise would end up running their day. So if they, who faced exile, war, betrayal, and illness, needed to affirm themselves daily, how could you not? There's someone else who really gets this. J. Alderton, a former British soldier. Every day, he repeats a phrase he created. Don't just focus on what you want, focus on who you're choosing to be today. He makes it part of his routine to anchor himself to his values, because for him, real progress isn't about the results you get. It's about the person you choose to become each day, even when you're tired, doubtful, or under pressure. And this, my friend, matters more than you think, because stress often doesn't just come from having too much to do. It comes from feeling disconnected from yourself. But if you take a moment to remind yourself who you are, everything shifts. So, how do you remind yourself each day who you are and live from that place? First, create a personal power phrase, but make it yours. No generic affirmations. Write it like you're speaking to your strongest self. For example, I stay calm, even when everything's burning. Or my peace is worth more than a pointless argument. Make it real. Make it you. Next, record yourself saying it. Yep, even if it makes you cringe. You need to speak to yourself with strength. Say what you need to hear. It doesn't have to sound perfect, just authentic. And listen to it in the morning, or whenever you feel yourself fading. Finally, do a quick identity check every day. Ask yourself one question. Does what I'm doing reflect the person I want to become? And if the answer is no, adjust. You don't need to change everything. Just one gesture, one word, one thought. Mental calm isn't built with silence alone, or by disconnecting from the world. It's built when you know exactly who you are, even when everything around you is loud. And if this helped you reconnect with yourself, just wait for what's coming next. Because the final habit won't just bring you clarity. It might be exactly what you need to close the loop, regain your balance, and finally calm your mind for real. 10. Value what you already have. You're sitting in front of your computer looking at the numbers for the month, and they don't add up. You feel frustrated, you push yourself harder, you tell yourself you're not progressing, that it's not enough. And all of that starts to build inside you like a storm. But stop for a second. Do you have a job? Do you have someone waiting for you at home? Or someone who sends you a message asking how you're doing? Do you have food in the fridge, electricity, hot water? Maybe now it all feels normal. But 5 years ago, wasn't that exactly what you dreamed of having? The problem is, your mind, without meaning to, always wants more. It races, it demands, it compares, but it rarely stops to look at everything it already has. My friend, you're forgetting the most powerful antidote to stress and mental chaos: gratitude. And no, I'm not talking about cheesy phrases or pretending everything is perfect. I'm talking about a real, powerful tool that literally changes how your brain works. I'm not making it up. Science backs it up. Dr. Laurie Santos, a professor at Yale University, has shown through her research that consciously practicing gratitude improves well-being, focus, and emotional health, even in people going through hard times. In her classes, she teaches students to write down things they're grateful for each day. And not only does it lift their mood, it actually shifts how they perceive the world. They become more resilient, more grounded, more present. But this isn't new. Seneca said it centuries ago. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. And he didn't say it because he had everything. On the contrary, Seneca was exiled, lived with austerity, and gave up power more than once. And still, or maybe because of that, he found calm. Because he didn't cling to what he could lose. Because each day, he chose to value what he had, no matter how simple. If he lived today, he wouldn't need even half the things we think we need to be okay. So if you're waiting to have more in order to feel at peace, you're missing the chance to feel peace right now. Take a pause. Look around. You're watching this video. Do you have a coffee next to you? Does your home smell clean? Do you have a few minutes just for yourself? Do you feel like, finally, You're learning how to care for yourself on the inside? Tell me in the comments. Share just one thing you're grateful for today. It doesn't have to be huge, because you've got to learn to value the small things too. And if you don't know where to start, try this. Each morning, do an invisible gratitude. That means being thankful for something you can't see, but that carries you through the day. For example, I didn't wake up in pain today, or my kid made me laugh last night at dinner. At first, it might seem minor, but over time, your mind will learn to focus on what you do have, instead of what's missing. Another trick that works: change "I have to" into "I get to." Don't say "I have to work," say "I get to work." Not "I have to work out," but "I get to move my body," because not everyone can, and you can. And one last piece of advice: each day pick one ordinary moment, something you usually take for granted, and celebrate it. Maybe it's that quiet cup of coffee, that walk home, or that time in the hot shower. Don't rush it. Enjoy it. Give it the value it deserves. Because those little things, when seen through fresh eyes, are what bring you back to calm. Valuing what you already have doesn't mean giving up on your goals. It means your peace doesn't depend on reaching them. And that, my friend, is the mental freedom you've been looking for. Because what if, just maybe, you already have everything you need to feel at peace today, and you just haven't noticed? Mental calm isn't something you stumble upon by chance. It's something you build, with habits, with daily choices, with small acts of self-care that might seem insignificant, but over time, change everything. You don't need a perfect life to feel at peace. You just need to start reclaiming your mind, one thought at a time, one habit at a time. Because the more order you create within yourself, the less the outside noise can shake you. And if you've made it this far, tell us in the comments. I choose to build my calm day by day. That way, I'll know who the true Stoic warriors are who made it to the end. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a like so you don't miss out on what's coming next. I also invite you to check out our playlist, which you'll see on the screen. It's packed with ideas, stories, and advice to help you navigate life with more wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep moving forward together. Until next time, take care and keep embracing your inner Stoic.